Okay, so this device is the Roland E4, which is sold as mostly a vocal tweaker, which is great for people who can sing or just people who want to make the sounds of their voice sound better, whether for singing or vocal chops or things like that. But I think it's a little bit undersold because this is actually a lot more in my opinion. It has a mic in here for microphones, guitars, things like that. But also, if you're using a TRRS cable, it has a line in as well, meaning that it can be used to process audio from all kinds of different sources. And really, it's kind of like a full effects pedal with a looper that can also do vocals. So I'm going to demonstrate how I use it in other ways here. Okay, so to demonstrate how it's kind of used as an effects pedal here, I have a synthesizer plugged into the line input of the Roland E4. And I kind of think of it as having three sections to the effects part, which is kind of atmospheric effects here. It has crazy scatter effects here that do all kinds of things like bit crushing, panning, ducking, and just scattering the noise in all kinds of different ways. And then these two sliders here that have really interesting pitch effects and then like direct kind of oscillator effects to modulate the oscillators of synths and stuff like that. So I'll start by showing the atmospheric effects here. That's a dry sound. You have a very serviceable reverb. You have an echo effect. That's when it's off. It's just a sort of gentle delay where this delay is a lot more prominent. That's with the sound off. You can see the work it did there. Here's the chorus, which really thickens up the sound. It can detune it a bit too, so you can use it sparingly. So now I'm going to start a sequence here. You can see what the scatter knob starts to do. You can use it in combination with the other effects to get some really crazy sounds. That's cool. The formant acts a little bit like a really crazy filter, where here is only letting low sounds out, and that's letting high sounds out. With the auto pitch, it sort of forces it into a key, which can do like really cool mashup sounds. One of the other cool effects with the E4 is running instruments through the harmonizer button, which basically kind of stacks the sound on top of each other, forming chords, almost like as a Unison or Detune effect would on a synth. So I'll show an example of that here. These are just single notes. Now the harmonizer is adding like a third above it, or a fifth, or a seventh. So you can almost make like chords by just playing one note, right? That's with and without. You can also put it like a whole octave above or below. And then also an octave above and below at the same time. That's without. So then you can run like whole sequences through that as well, that effect. And then if I add the harmonizer, it's adding like a whole octave above and below, like really thickening up the sound. So you have like really customizable Unison kind of effect there. It also has this vocoder effect that directly will modulate the sound with different different waves, such as a square, pulse, or saw. So I'll show an example of that. If you turn it on, here's my sound noisier. And of course you can add all the effects in combination. Which can get really crazy, which is great for something like working with using it as a master effects unit. So for instance, if I have like a full track here, right, I have like a full kind of techno-like track here, and I can just totally mangle the sound, right, in so many different ways with the delay or the reverb. Or just the scatter knob. And then also these crazy pitch effects. Where it would so all kinds of stuff you can do there. So another awesome thing about the E4 is that it has this built-in looper, but not just any looper like some of the cheaper effects pedals has. It has a syncable looper to an analog signal or a MIDI signal, which means you can do all kinds of things like that because it can sync external instruments to your electronic gear. So I'll just give an example of one application for that, for instance, is doing kind of DJ style looper effects. I'm not that great at it, I'm getting better, but we'll see how that works. So I'm going to loop this part of a song. So now it's just looping a short phrase, and now I can go bring in another song, another song here. So I can use it to transition to two songs at the same tempo really easily because the looper is synced to the tempo of the track that's coming in. So one of the other cool applications you can do with a looper, and particularly a tempo sync looper, is that you can expand the polyphony or even timbrality of synth. So for instance, this Volca FM is a mono timbral synth, meaning it can only play one type of sound at once. But using the looper, I can expand that and kind of create full songs using different layers. So for example, I have a kick drum recorded here. Play it back on the looper. And I'm going to add the snare layer now. Now I'm going to add a bass layer on top of that. So this would be impossible without a tempo sync looper to do this, to turn the Volca FM into a drum machine and add layers on top of that. And now I can kind of add more layers and make this into like a full track, right, with just using what's typically a mono timbral synth. without tempo syncing the looper, I'll take the sync out here. I can just add more layers just using the regular looper. So for instance, let me record a simple pad here. Sorry, I'll start it right away. So I'll loop that, and now I can just go to another preset and play over that. So another really good application of the looper is the ability to sync and record acoustic instruments with electronic gear. So I'm going to give an example of that here. And the last thing I want to show is that while we know the Roland E4 is really good for singing into, keeping your vocals on key and adding cool effects to them and stuff like that, it's also really good for just adding quick vocal chops to loop in the context of other electronic things you have going on, because it has that tempo sync looper. So I'll show an example of that here.
I ain't never running. I ain't never running.